ladies and gentlemen, again, the purpose of this is to keep our people informed of what we know and what we think and why we're doing what we're doing. And I want to apologize for coming out a little late, but we had a video conference with the president and the vice president and other officials in Washington, in the White House, and most of the governors, I think, were on the line. I think of 54 out of 55, counting the territories. And the good news that is coming, and we're hearing more and more, is we can tell around the country the feeling is that the end is in sight, that the mission is going as well as can be expected. There's still a lot of work to do. We cannot let up, but the end is in sight, and we're making progress. A few things to tell you before we bring up some others. I've today proposed a solution to the General Assembly. As you know, they left last week without passing a continuing resolution to keep that is the budget and the money that is going to be spent starting on July the 1st. And we don't want the government to close down, but it's difficult for them all to come back to the State House before May the 14th, which is the normal date that the General Assembly would adjourn. Because that is probably when we will be at our peak here in South Carolina. So what I proposed to them was that they need not return, that I will call them back in June, and by June, particularly by the fiscal year starts on July the 1st, so by the end of June, we expect our economy to be humming. We expect to be well back in business by then, and I can call them back then, and they can come in then and pass that continuing resolution and any other important matters they think, and that way the government will not shut down. We will have no concern about having the government shut down. We will not let the government shut down, and it will continue on into the next fiscal year. A few other things. I've gotten some requests, you may have read about them, about postponing our primaries on June the 9th. Well, at this point, we see no reason to do that. Again, we expect things to be moving along very well by then, so there's no reason to do that. We have current voting methods with absentee voting and those things that if we utilize those to the fullest, we ought to be in good shape. And of course, the runoffs will be on June the 23rd. And as we look around at other states, some of them have postponed their elections that were being held in May, and they are moving them back into June, about the same time as ours. So that seems to be, again, a positive sign around the country. I want to thank the hospitals for the great work that they're doing, and that includes everyone from the nurses and the assistants and the doctors to the executives and everybody concerned for the great preparation they did. As you know, we asked them to consider reducing elective surgeries as much as they could to make way for the surge and to prepare to see how we can open up beds for what we expect may happen, and they've done so very well. The surge, we think our peak will probably be, we think, in early May. So they are happily able to now, we know how to shut down, how to start back up. So they are now beginning to do more elective surgeries than they were, but we are assured that when the time comes, when and if the time comes, to the extent it comes, they will be able to handle the medical needs of the people of South Carolina. We've got a lot of ventilators, we've got a lot of critical care beds, and our medical community, the healthcare community, is as organized and functioning as well as I've ever seen it. Next week I will announce something new. We're going to call it Accelerate South Carolina. What is that? That is to accelerate, to find the best practices to get us back working at full speed and to go back, ramp back up to where we were before the virus came along. As you know, we were announcing record numbers of job growth and all of those things. We were right at the top of our game and growing, and we want to get back there. So we're going to put together a group that will meet. It will consist of people from manufacturing, from tourism, hospitality, agribusiness, from the state agencies, from the General Assembly. You name it, it'll be there. We'll not be in silos, but be working together, keeping social distancing and doing a lot of things remotely. But we will come up with the best practices to get business humming again as quickly as possible in South Carolina. Now, it'll be measured just as we measured it carefully going into where we are now, in restricting some businesses, in restricting activities, in asking people to comply with certain things. We're going to be coming out in the same measured and careful way. To do so immediately, to do so too quickly would be reckless, and it would be, if we had a return of the spread of the virus, it'd be virtually impossible for us to turn the system around again. But I'm going to assure you that we are going to find the best ways to do it quickly and safely, and we will have return our economic revitalization and growth. We will have testing for contact tracing. We will be careful with the elderly and the vulnerable, and we want to be sure that we prevent a recurrence. Also, the CARES Act is another thing that this Accelerate South Carolina will be making plans for, and that is the money that we're receiving from the federal authorities. It's about $48 million. It'll be going to K-12 and higher ed, and then an additional $1.9 billion for the state and local governments. Now, what is that going to be used for? That is to reimburse us for the expenses that we have incurred in responding to the virus. And we are very grateful that that will be done. And we thank President Trump and his administration for that. And finally, one of our first steps in moving back towards the revitalization will be today I'm issuing an executive order. It's a small step, but it is a step, and there will be more, to open our public boat ramps back up for fishing and recreation. You know, in earlier orders, we asked people to take life a little easy, to relax, to recreate, to get out and walk, exercise. Well, a lot of that happens on the water. A lot of fishing, a lot of families like to get on the water. So we're going to open those ramps back up, but we still insist, watch your social distancing, don't have any large gatherings, do the things that we've asked you to do before, and we'll be fine. So I say again, I want to thank the people of South Carolina for what they've done, and also I want to thank the people down in Hampton County and up in Seneca and Oconee County and other counties that were hit by these tornadoes. In spite of the devastating blow that has been delivered to them, they were taking care of the workers that were coming to clean up the roads, to get the trees out of the roads and out of the houses, and they were cooking them food. The churches were working and activated their kitchens to be sure that the people working on the power lines had food to eat. In fact, I got one report that some of them were sorry they'd finished their work because they're going to have to go home and go miss a lot of that good cooking that they'd gotten used to. So again, I want to thank the people of South Carolina, but I say again, it's too early to celebrate. We've got to keep the lid on ourselves, contain your enthusiasm, because we still have to get out of this. But we're going to get out of it, and it's going to be sooner rather than later.